My name is Anil Malwani. I'm a CPA and tax accountant, and my focus today is accounting and taxes for NFTs. I'm bringing you the experts to help you to know what's going on in the NFT and crypto world and the opportunities and pitfalls that are coming, as much as we can predict. So my guest today is Mr. Ben LeDonni. Did I pronounce that right?
That's right.
Ben LeDonni. You're joining us from where today, Ben?
Right outside Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, in Bucks County, PA.
Nice, not too far. Okay. So please, Ben, let's start with a basic introduction of yourself and your business.
Yeah, absolutely. So like Anil said, and thanks for having me, Anil, appreciate it. I'm Ben LeDonni, founder and CEO of a company called Creative MMS, we're a digital marketing agency in Philly, and also just started a business called Deployment, which is all about helping companies get on blockchain, deploying things like NFT and using crypto in ways to help advance and grow their business.
Okay, great. And how did you first get into crypto and NFTs?
I'm a self-proclaimed geek. I have a master's degree in computer science from Villanova University. And so I'm always looking at those new trends. It's kind of how I've applied my knowledge to digital marketing at Creative, just advancing and looking at what the newest things are in marketing and technology. And really what happened was, blockchain piqued my interest early on as far as like what it does to solve technical problems and decentralized ownership. And, I have a college friend that was in the space on Wall Street, applying blockchain to finance and DeFi stuff. And we geeked out over conversations and decided to start a business around problems that we saw people were going to have with trying to get that first, bump into using blockchain for their business. Myself personally, then obviously, since I was invested in it I'm putting my time into this, obviously, set up a couple wallets, bought crypto on exchanges and have bought NFTs on things like OpenSea and Mintable to try and, immerse myself in the space and get to know it as best as possible. And now really, Google's my best friend. I have an Android phone and it, tends to show me all of the things that it thinks I will like. And man, that's a heck of a lot of news articles and stuff around crypto and NFTs nowadays when I just go to my Google Now listings of articles that I should be reading.
Right. So at least it's not just telling you what you want to buy and where you want to live. It's telling you a lot more than that now when it comes to NFTs and crypto. At least that's coming into good use, right? For the most part. So
exactly, right on.
I don't know about you, but sometimes I feel like I don't even say it or browse it, but I think it, and it's like on my phone pretty quickly. And I'm like, wow, that's just creepy, right? But
that's the marketing angle of it too. Yeah. You can love or hate that. I've written some articles on Forbes about that exact scenario. And frankly, I like that. I don't mind as long as I'm not saying anything or doing anything I shouldn't, then that's going to be valuable information for me. But I understand that freaks a lot of people out for sure.
So, and what any other experiences with crypto NFTs you want to tell us about before we get into the other more detailed questions?
Really just now I'm immersed in it like a lot of other people as far fascinated with it. I would say when people say NFT, I think right now it has this connotation of just, Bored Ape monkey pictures and, what I don't understand it. And it sounds like a whole bunch of voodoo and it's going to crash type stuff. But I'm way more immersed in the technology and its use towards actual real life decentralization and using blockchain as a methodology to prevent an actual third party from having to validate ownership of stuff. So to me, NFTs are they're a tool to create something that's non-fungible and represents ownership stake in things that can be used for a lot of things that's being used for now, but don't necessarily need to be. So
I wish I was so eloquent like you last night. I was having dinner with my daughters and, I was telling them what I was doing today about our interview. Of course, my younger one, she's going to be 12 next month. And she's like, it's just art. Like, it's just a digital picture. It's like, anyone could have it. Here's she's like showing me on her phone. Like, I have it right now, Daddy. And it cost me nothing. And I'll have to show her this interview or try to like repeat what you said because, or maybe just wait till she gets older. And by the time, within a couple of years and when she's in high school, she'll be teaching me about NFTs, right?
Well, it's the younger generation tends to pick it up a lot easier than us. And I will say the reason for that, I think, is because they're groomed with things like skins on Fortnite and Roblox pets and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, she's a huge Roblox fan. Yeah.
Yeah. So if you were just instead, use that analogy for her and say it's not an image, it's actually more like a pet on Roblox or something where Roblox is validating that you own that thing. But imagine that you could take that pet from Roblox to Fortnite to another system because it's decentralized ownership. That's a heck of a lot more of what it is in terms of its use case. All she did with the image is she showed it to you. She didn't actually use the image, and she wouldn't be able to use the image if she didn't own it. That's the difference.
Okay, cool. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
So, what do you see as the biggest future opportunities in NFT and cryptos? Things that maybe, I mean, obviously, I'm sure you don't want to give away some of your secrets, but to the extent that you want to talk about the future, what do you see developing the next, I don't know, 6, 12, 18 months?
Yeah, so I kind of hit that from two angles. One is the first and foremost is just what decentralized public ledgers could possibly do for us in a way that couldn't have been done before. And when you think about that, you think of things like title, proving ownership of a car, a house, or having to go to like an insurance company to get a certificate that you have insurance. I mean, those things are going to be solved by technology. It's already happening now, but in the future, it's going to seem very archaic to have gone to the township to validate that a parcel was owned by a certain person. That sounds archaic to me already, now that I know what could be done. But on the flip side of that is some of the conversations that we're having at deployment with other businesses as far as like fractionalizing ownership of something that had a lot of value. So let's say a cask of whiskey could be broken up into 220 NFTs that represent a small stake of ownership inside that cask. And as it gets, more mature, the value of that NFT can grow and the ownership can be decentralized so that if I own that piece, there's no question. You don't even need to go back to that distiller to say who owned it. It's public ledger and it's known that I own it. And then the community that's being built around that is really astounding too, where brands now have an opportunity to connect with their audience around, a consumer that, let's say, spent $2,000 or $3,000 on an NFT that represented how invested they were in the stake of a brand. Now they are feeling a lot more community around that brand and feeling like they're part of something. That Bored Ape movement is all of that. It's a lot of community. I mean, they just dropped some ridiculous number of ape coins that was a lot of money into people that own them. And not only that, they have exclusive access to parties and exclusive access to things that others don't. And so that's building community around ownership that's decentralized.
Yeah, it'd be cool. It'd be interesting to see how some of these parties develop and how going to live events and things like that really make the experience, right? Like make it more of an actual experience and an interactive social experience, not something that's just digital, that's just online, right?
Oh, exactly. And it continues on beyond that. I mean, a big basketball fan, I went to see Villanova play at the Big East tournament, and they said, there was up on the big screen was scan this QR code for access to the NFT that represents your being here, right? And if you think about like that experience carrying forward and being, documented in eternity on some platform that is agnostic of anything else, that's pretty powerful. You take alcohol. There's a really cool platform out there called Block Bar that's doing this just for the alcohol industry, and Patron, and they just listed another, I think Dalmore, another liquor brand that is putting out NFTs so that when you buy a bottle or you're buying ownership in, you could represent that stake that you had in that brand. It's pretty cool stuff.
Even when you finish the bottle, and so obviously then you have to whatever you're at. Let's say you finish the tequila, it's gone, whether you buy another one or not. But then that the NFT continues to exist after that.
They actually, it's a cool one to look up, but they actually do it reverse. So you buy the NFT and the NFT represents access to things like that. We're talking
got it. Okay.
Other industries that applies to. I mean, that could apply in the cigar industry, that could apply in, you name it, anywhere where you're buying a high dollar amount something and you want access to that almost as a VIP. That's really, really good. But there's more than that. I mean, just in terms of fractionalized ownership, you talk about like owning a signed Mickey Mantle card and now deploying that so that multiple people can share in the ownership. You talk about DAOs and voting rights as part of an organization, and like an organization can create NFTs so that there's ownership inside a business and that represents a certain number of voting rights that could be used in that business. And that's a big one that's getting applied right now as well. So what's interesting is that the technology empowered people to use it a certain way that it was meant to be used. But I think the trend in the market has adjusted so that it's being used for things that other technology platforms could have been used for anyway. So it's really interesting.
Yeah, on that note, I guess I'll go a little bit off the on a tangent, especially because we have and not to give a plug into this business or anything, but I did hear not only would you have the NBA playoffs coming up, you mentioned basketball, but by the way, go Hubert Davis, North Carolina tonight. I'm a big Knicks fan, so Hubert Davis is one of my favorite players tonight. He's coaching, as you know, North Carolina. NBA Top Shot. When I was in Miami for Art Basel last December, I went to this event where I think he might be the head of it or some senior executive at NBA Top Shot was speaking at this event. So that's the first time I had ever even heard of it. But do you know what is that? Is NBA Top Shot something like digital trading cards? Is that what it is? Do you know anything about that?
Yeah, I don't know it. I don't own anything in there. I have been on the site, connected a wallet, and kind of immerse myself a little bit in what it is that they're doing. But if you took playing cards, let's say the way that we did use them when we were growing up as trading cards, and the fact that they were physical representations and you tried to keep them in mint condition and all that stuff, I think they just took it to the next level where now they're issuing like digital versions of something like that, where it's a clip of a game, clip of
okay.
and they only have 50 versions of that or editions of that could be owned.
Got it.
Exclusivity of something that was issued by an authority. That's actually another really good point, I think, to bring up. A lot of people miss this, but things on blockchain are unique, but they're only really unique to who's issued them. So, yes, that picture of a Bored Ape could have been issued by 3 different other entities and, suggested as owned on blockchain, but there's really only one that matters if that brand is the one that issued it. So, these big brands like that, like the NBA doing Top Shot, they own the rights to that. They could sell the rights to it in a way where it's actually meaningful. And then if you think of the long-term impact of that, advertising dollars or the ability to use that clip and pay royalties back to the owner, which is built into smart contracts on blockchain, there's a lot of power in that decentralized ownership.
So as like a simple collector, you could actually own, as a simple fan / collector, whatever, you could own the rights to something that ESPN or Yahoo Sports or whatever could need to rent from you or lease from you in a way, I guess, right?
Exactly.
Wow,
Yeah,
cool.
that is, believe it or not, that is when people talk Web3, that is the core tenet of Web3, which is that contributors and creators could gain some benefit from the ownership of things all the way through towards perpetuity. For example, if I'm an artist, let's say I make music and I put my music up online. Well, before it had to go through Spotify, and Spotify paid me when I got plays on the stream. Blockchain allows a contract between me and anybody else that plays it to be able to kick me royalties right away.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, that's a lot of where there's big movement in that contract, having finances tied directly to the stream of public decentralization.
Okay, got it. Cool. And what do you see as not to be too negative here, but any potential pitfalls, things to be aware of, things to be on the lookout for?
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, first and foremost, the release of control by some of the third parties to just a decentralized technology is not really great for the business. So if you took a golf club, for example, and the golf club is saying we're going to issue NFTs to represent the membership of the golf club, well, now the golf club just lost all the ability to flex and say, well, you've been a member here for 30 years and 4 generations have been a part of this club, so I can issue you the access for a little bit cheaper. Well, you can't really do that because then it's public ledgered as far as who owns it and how those rules apply. So the challenge is that it forces brands to be very specific about their contracts when they put them out there as far as what they represent, because they can't cheat them. So if you bought an NFT from a brand and that you thought that NFT would represent something that it no longer does 3 months from now, or they issue the same NFT for a lot less value later, you're going to be pissed about that. So that is one of the pitfalls now, is that there's really no I would call it governance around, or compliance, if you will, around that, how they're issued, which will be fixed, I think, over time. But that's part of what we do at deployment, is make sure the roadmap is solid and true for the brand to be able to connect with their audience. The other ones that I would say is this gap in understanding. I mean, like you just pointed out about your daughter, like it's a huge pitfall that the trends are taking this towards people making millions of dollars on NFTs. And you got Gary Vee speaking about his royalty kickbacks that he's gotten over time. And, people thinking that it's just from him selling pictures of apes and pictures of things that don't represent anything. And so they just crock brain it and say, nope, I don't want anything to do with that. It sounds so stupid. That's never going to be a thing of the future, but they don't understand the underlying technology behind it. That I think is the number one issue, really, is that gap in knowledge and lack of understanding, and the market pushing this towards something that it's not really the only thing it's about.
Yeah, I'll tell you a story about Gary Vee offline. One of the few NFTs that I have has something to do with him. So I don't want to get into it too detailed right now, but yeah, he's obviously a big player in the space, right? So
yeah, right on. And got out ahead of it. He was there early.
Right. So let's moving on to a little bit now. How do NFTs and cryptos figure into your financial planning, if they do at all? I mean,
yeah. So the way I think of it individually personally is that if you have cash and cash is a certain asset, then you should not just rely 100% on the American government to justify how much a dollar is worth when they can print more of them or they can do other things with it. So really, other currencies could be, the euro, let's say, would hedge against the American dollar. And I feel the same way about crypto, where you could hedge against that with something like Bitcoin or Ethereum. I kind of feel a little bit more passionate about that because what that currency does for it to be more of a global exchange really empowers a lot of like third world countries and people that don't have access to, hard dollar to be able to do exchanges. I mean, you look at like people in Ukraine trying to get out, people in Russia that were locked up in terms of being able to use finances, and digital currency could have fixed a lot of what was happening there. That said, another big pitfall, government wants to be able to control currencies and wants to be able to make sure that they could issue more if needed. And they want to make sure that they understand all the implications and the flow of that money for tax reasons. So just to answer the question, for me, it's a hedge. As much cash as I have, I want basically 10% of that cash to be in crypto so that it's just hedging against, the value of a dollar. NFTs, I don't think right now I see them as a store of value for myself. I see them way more as like a brand allegiance or an investment in a brand, almost like art as a collectible. I think you and I talked about that before. But I do think that there's some tangible, what I would call like endowment of owning NFTs in the future, where you own it and then, your kids may own it and continue to own it, and it may generate for them in ways that we couldn't even understand right now.
Yeah, I guess one thing we don't know yet is how it, I guess maybe like any other collectible or asset, how it passes on from generation to generation as people do estate planning, pass away, stuff like that, right? That's going to bring a whole nother kind of I guess realm to the whole thing, right? In terms of how it gets passed on. Right now, so it's only with, not the people, like it's only with one really in what, the last 5-7 years, maybe NFTs, not more than that, right?
Yeah, well, in terms of popularity, really the last two where
right.
critical mass. Yeah, well, so that's a good point in terms of transfer and what happens in inheritance. I think another pitfall though there is that the government and people trying to understand this always try and liken this to something else, right? So in order for me to tax NFTs, I'm going to think of them like art, but they're not just art, right? So that's a challenge as far as like when something comes out as big as blockchain that is different than anything we've ever seen before. You almost have to have new lenses about how you look at it, that you can't just look at it as it's like this other thing,
I guess I just played into my next question. It was why is it important to have other financial experts advising as your NFT and crypto empire grows? And I think we just kind of really touched on that, right? Between not only tax planning and tax preparation, but also estate planning, maybe putting things into a trust, your will, right? You really have to involve your accountant, your lawyer. Everyone really, it's part of your portfolio, and you need to, like anything else in life, like kind of plan as much as you possibly can. Right.
Oh, I totally agree with that. One of the bigger challenges with that, especially just having done this for myself, I've purchased crypto on 3 different exchanges, and, submitting to my accountant those exchanges and saying, the reports from those exchanges is not exactly easy. So, those exchanges will have to get better with the time as far as what they report. But yeah, it's not easy to understand. And like you said, I'd rely on somebody like you to tell me this is what your tax impact is before you do it, so that you don't mess anything up later.
I don't know if you don't have to say the name or not, but I know there's 10 or 15 different semi-popular ones out there. But did you, because also one of my good friends is also a client. He just finally sent me his not only his crypto trading, but I guess he ended up doing staking also. And whatever third party site he used, he said it was free, which got me a little wary. But it looks like the 8949, which is the IRS form that shows all the transactions, looks pretty clean. It makes sense to him what the net gain is on it. Have you had any, again, whether you want to say the name or not, I don't really care, but have you had any good or bad experience with any third party tracker or software at all when it comes to putting things
I
together?
can tell you outright. I mean, Coinbase's was pretty clean. I thought
Coinbase on its own, right? Coinbase,
yeah.
But I'm saying when it comes to the other non-Coinbase wallets and exchanges, did you feel the need to use a third party tracker or site or no?
I didn't use a third party tracker, but I used different exchanges to get access to currencies that I couldn't.
Right. Okay. Got it. Right.
So like XT is another one that I used, and Binance is another one that I used. Both of them were very similar in terms of what they gave you for reporting, which was really just mostly a transaction log. And that transaction log was like, you got to do the math yourself to figure out what you owe.
Oh, so you just kind of exported it to Excel or CSV, and then you were able to kind of filter out the sales exchanges on your own.
Yeah, from that regard, it's really not that hard as long as you understand the rules. Like, that's where somebody like you becomes really important to be able to sit and say, I know how to handle this. But I wouldn't trust a CPA that didn't understand that and know that for the risks of that. And then granted, there's a lot of speculation as far as like, since the government doesn't understand it, they might just audit a lot of people that have been in that space, and that's going to be a little bit time consuming and troublesome. So the more you could use an exchange that's easier and doing it the right way, the better for everybody.
Did you do any staking or mining or anything like that, or no? No.
I have not. No, just personally, I have not. I mean, I've thought about staking. I've, no desire really to get into the mining right now, though I've talked to some pretty good companies about like how they almost do old school co-location hosting with mining, where you can put money up and they have machines at various places. Very cool in concept, but no, I haven't done it yet. And staking, I think, is a really good, I mean, it's interesting because staking is almost just like the old school CDs at a bank. You're holding it there for long enough to be able to generate some value on those dollars because they're at an exchange for long enough. But for me, the volatility forces me to not really want to put it anywhere for too long of a period of time. I mean, if I need to get to it, I want to get to it.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely with you on that one. Yeah. You never know when you're gonna, I mean, I'm not look, to me, it's definitely like you said, diversifying, kind of hedging, the rest of your investments, whether it's cash or equities. But yeah, I don't think that's you kind of confirm my belief on staking too. I don't need to. I have enough going on. I'm not gonna.
I know
on that right now.
If you're staking it, it should be like 15 or 20%. 4% on something that moves 4% a day is not really,
right. So I know we mentioned Gary Vee before. Who else do you pay attention to for NFT information?
Yeah, so Mr. Wonderful from
oh god, that guy.
But he's been outspoken.
You can't stay away from that guy even if you want to, right?
No, and you know what? As much as he plays a villain on TV, he's very smart. He's been successful in life, and he's got a lot of good things to say. Mark Cuban, I firmly believe in his beliefs in Polygon, and I know he's an early investor in that, but also he just speaks the same language that I do when he's talking about like ticket sales and like the fact that the NBA should be issuing tickets through a blockchain so that they can make royalties on any time it's sold in the future. And he just gets it. He's been a futurist in terms of technology, and I'm a fan of his to begin with. But he's one of the ones that I listen to a lot as well. There's
I like
Mark Cuban
a lot also. Yeah, something about Mark Cuban. I like listening to him more than I do Mr. Wonderful. I don't know, maybe just the way they present themselves, and
Yeah, well, they've got character development on whatever that show is, Shark
Shark
Tank.
Tank, right, yeah.
Yeah, so you're already groomed to like him, but he's also a family guy. I feel I'm a family guy. He's younger at least than Mr. Wonderful, so I feel like I resonate a little bit more with him. But who are you following?
Uh, I mean, I guess, I don't know if I follow anyone specific. I ended up, like, I'll tell you more. I ended up kind of partnering up with a buddy, and we bought an NFT that Gary V is involved in. So I always knew who Gary V was. I mean, generally how he started with the wine business. So I definitely follow him. He's actually also like a local, and kind of his kids go to school with my friend's kids in New York.
Oh wow.
I haven't met him directly, but a lot of my friends have met him, hung out with him. Yeah. Um, it's different, I guess, when you know someone's in your local, kind of in your community. Um, and I mean, look, I'm just generally, I'm a big fan of CNBC. I like the way they present, not only whether it's 9 a.m. or when the market's open, but also the news at 7 p.m. It's just as more a lot more neutral than a lot of other media outlets and channels.
Yeah.
So, and of course, I mean, they're talking about crypto every 20, 30 minutes on CNBC. So, it's been already a few years now since they have
The
the
ticker.
Bitcoin tracker, the ticker,
Yeah.
right? You have Bitcoin. I think they have the top few cryptos on the tracker now. So I really just focus on that for a lot of my news, and I have Coinbase, and I watch it. Sometimes you get up in the middle of the night, you can't avoid just checking it out. I mean, it's almost like if I'm going to check something out, should I check Coinbase or Instagram? Maybe I'm better off checking Coinbase. I'll spend less time on it, and I'll go back to sleep faster.
Well, I'll tell you, there's a good friend and somebody that's kind of not part of, but working with us in some aspects in the deployment business is an NFT trader, and he tells us that the middle of the night he's checking discords and stuff like that to see movement and make sure he's not missing anything. And it's like, it's really real. This stuff is happening super fast. If it's that volatile, you got to be able to get in and get out when
right.
I mean, my biggest regret is I don't buy into the dips as much as I probably should. Every time it dips down, you start to think, oh my gosh, all those people that are anti-crypto are right. This is going to zero. What are we doing? And then, it bounces back and goes higher than it was before. That said, I've got really, not that this is investment advice, but like the backbone of a lot of the Web3 stuff is Ethereum, and with what they're doing on the network and improving things, I really see it as being like a very solid way to exchange currency through web transactions, more so than Bitcoin, because of just the fact that that's already been the early adopted way of buying NFTs. When you bought an NFT, you probably used Ethereum for it.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's kind of that, like, that's the accepted currency of the digital economy online in Web3 for NFTs. And so, like, our platform's built on Ethereum. We also have Polygon support and credit card support for like fiat, so that early adopters can take
Polygon is another crypto. I don't think I've heard of that one before.
Yeah, Matic is the symbol, so MATIC, and
Okay.
yeah, so you've probably seen it as that, but Polygon's white paper is pretty cool in terms of the way that they're trying to make sure that they keep the transactions. The fees are a lot lower in gas, and it's fast. It's really solid, and that's one of the reasons Cuban likes it. So.
Okay, cool. I guess I was definitely going to learn. I mean, I learned a lot today, but that's the one that's probably going to stick with me because I haven't heard of that before. Is it on Coinbase or no, or something?
Where do I own it? Yeah, Coinbase sells it. You can buy it on Coinbase. And then MetaMask has a connection into it. I mean, if you look, one of the things we track is just what is OpenSea and Mintable doing, and what are they accepting and not accepting. And they take MetaMask wallets and Coinbase wallets, but they take Ethereum and Poly, and so that's just a good sign, for a good trend for that coin.
Have you or anyone bought any NFTs using their credit card?
I haven't,
Okay.
but our system is deployed so that it can support credit card for that reason that it needs to be, and mainly because with some of these brands issuing NFTs and ownership stake and stuff, and not really understanding blockchain and not having a MetaMask wallet or a Coinbase wallet, like, you got to think they want to get in the game, they just don't know how, and they haven't gone through those couple of first steps to get money in their wallet and a plugin or whatever Google Chrome calls it, like a widget to be able to transact using Web3. So I think that's going to increase. The question is, how does somebody escrow that NFT? Do they truly own it, or is it really just in holding for them? Those questions are really tough to answer. For example, if you bought using your credit card, it either has to be minted, the item has to be minted and stored on, some brand's blockchain and then transferred to you after they have a wallet, or it's just not minted yet. And once you issue it to a wallet, it gets minted. But technically, it's not really an NFT owned by somebody unless it's on their wallet using crypto. So,
Oh, okay, I understand. All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Ben. It was really just to close up, how can people follow you? I'm assuming you want people to follow you.
yeah, no doubt. I mean, in terms of the crypto stuff and the NFT stuff, Deployment is the name of the brand, like deploying mint for organizations. We're on Twitter. You can go to deployment.com and find out more. Really, the call to action for me is if anybody's looking from a brand to be able to just, understand and see if there's an opportunity to capitalize on the NFTs because they have a tangible application on blockchain, then I'm more than willing to have a conversation. But I also like to geek out like this, so I'll welcome a conversation like this anytime.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. It was great having you, and we'll definitely do this again sometime soon.
All right, Anil, thank you very much.
Thank you.